Hi everyone, this is or was meant to be the latest Storytime that I was working on, and I started this back in 2020 and I didn't have such a good time with it. There was so much that I'd put into it, like all the backgrounds. I was making videos on every step of the process. It was just the biggest project that I'd ever tackled on my own, and it got to a point where I was like, this is very overwhelming. I've got other things to do. It's taking too long. So I took a break from it. And I keep thinking about coming back to it because I hate having things that I haven't finished. And I'm like, oh, I should get to that. Oh, I should really pick that back up. But I don't think I will. And I've got to come to terms with the fact that some projects just aren't going to be finished. So I thought I'd do a little walkthrough of some of the shots that are finished, and at the end of this video you can get a little taster of what the video was actually meant to be like. So we're going to take a look at this first shot. There is actually a establishing shot before this that shows the exterior of the building, but this one I did mostly on stream and it took so long. There are so many characters in this, and as you can see from the layers, it is very, very busy. I ended up color coding most of these characters, but as you can see, it's all quite subtle movements. Everything is pretty slow. And there's this point here where I get the audio that makes them look up. So Mars was very kind and actually did the voice in the beginning for me, which you'll find out later. And his shot here is equally as complicated. So as you know, I like to do my animation in sections. These white ones are the backgrounds, and if I just remove them, you can see what the character looks like without. I usually have the backgrounds in grayscale, and then I use flat color and then texture over the top. So this was his very simple, rough animation. And then I start splitting things up into legs. This is the neck color. And then I have the neck line, the t-shirt color, t-shirt line. And I animated most of these using the perspective tool in TVPaint, simply because the star and the collar was going to be a bit difficult to get right. And these are the arms separately. And if we just go through, you'll see that there's a blue line behind them. And I used the behind feature in the pen tool, so I could actually go in with this blue color and not disturb the line art. And it just meant that when it came to coloring, I could use that line in that layer as a reference to color properly. So if I hadn't had that blue line, the color would have just gone everywhere and spilled out into the rest of the canvas. So both of these arms were separate to the main body. The head was separate. This was also moved around with the transform tool. And that was just because I wanted the hair to be super, super consistent. So consistent that I literally just copied the frames and moved them around. The mouth shapes, I used my own from my character. And I found that these are like super versatile. I might redo them eventually when I make another lip sync. So to finish off this shot, I just added a little camera move to zoom in, and it worked quite well. The next shot contains jump cuts where each shot is progressively closer but doesn't change angle, and usually this is a big no-no in films, but I love it because it gives like a sense of drama, and with each little cut there's like more detail in the face. You see that a lot in kids cartoons, and it was a feature or shot that I particularly loved, especially when they were like really, really rendered. Okay, and then we come to the second portion of the first shot in this, and it's their reaction to what Mars is saying. So I edited his audio in Audacity and I made it slower and deeper, and he just says people, 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 which is what is making everyone react this way, because obviously the title for this video was Networking Nightmare, and everyone is just freaking out. There's a bit of magic going on, and when you play it through, there's someone being sick. Everyone has their own little reactions, but it's quite a fun shot, I think. So if I go through these layers, you can see that there are a lot of them. There are bags on separate chairs. There is lightning, which I then duplicated and added a glow effect. This just gave it a little extra spice. And then we have the sick layer, which is then overlaid by the line detail. Then we have a little bit of sick on the character on the next row. And I changed her eyes here. This is not the usual way I do eyes, so I went for something different. And then we have an eye colour and the pen, which, because in the first shot she was separate and she moved the pen quite a lot, it just made it easier that I had it separate in this one. And then we have a body line and some textures and overlays that would go over the rest of the backgrounds. Next up we have this other front character who goes over the top of the bench. And then we start getting into the bench layout. So we'll have a bench in front and then the characters will be behind or in front. Some sections, like this one, where the arms are above the table, were separate to this other section where the body was linked with the arms. And of course there's more tables. Looking back now, I can't believe there are so many layers. I really don't like compressing or merging layers because I do think if I need to come back to this, what happens if I need to correct something and then I would have to do it all again or uncompress things. So I have a lot of different versions of projects that are very, very chunky or layer heavy. So I think this project is about a gig, and the funny thing is it's not even finished. So there are other shots that are done, but they have been moved to separate projects because they are a different size canvas. And I think that's a good way to work. Personally, I quite like this being the master file and then having different shots that are finished that I then bring into this shot and finish off. And then there's just more, so many more layers in this. There are some really fun smear frames and little expressions in this shot. I did really enjoy it. And then we have the grayscale and lined details for the rest of the background. I think if I redid this project now, it would definitely be a lot shorter and simpler, but I really went ham on this one. So this next shot, I did a couple of frames, and the only changes in this are the mouth and this little hair bit at the end. And then I mostly used the perspective tool again to wiggle them around in different frames. It made it super simple. I think this shot only took like an hour to make. And then we have this one, which I can't remember, but I think I did on stream. And it's very, very dramatic with the shake at the end and the tears. This one I also did on stream, and I did tutorials on this. The debris was super, super fun. And I'm really proud of it, actually. This is then the rough animation that I decided was awful and I hated it and I was going to redo it. But looking back, it's not that bad. And I really shouldn't have got too in my head about it because it's literally fine. It's literally fine. Definitely take a break or a walk or come back to a project if you're feeling like you hate everything you're making. It's one of the big signs of burnout. And I am getting better at recognizing when I don't feel so good. So that has helped a lot. My family usually drag me out and we do something together. And this final shot is just me popping up at the end, and we have like some smoke and flames where the side of the lecture theatre was damaged. And then this little bit was going to be the first character to camera lip sync portion, and they just push the remaining character out of the way because I realised that I left them in there at the end of this shot. But I really hope you enjoyed taking a look into this file. There is the playthrough of this animation coming next, and I'll be back with another video real soon. Bye!
Alright everyone, just a quick announcement that the university has hired a cinema in London to show your films. We're inviting industry professionals and studios along to take a look. There'll be free drinks and you'll get the chance to network with lots of people.